So with that speech that we got in this episode, where we're all told that we need to stop sleeping and wake up and fight the Empire, is that basically the Star Wars equivalent of stay woke? Hello, interwebs! I hope you're all doing well, because I know I am doing well, because I am reviewing the season finale of what has become, shockingly considering it's a Star Wars Disney show, one of, if not my favorite shows this year, Star Wars Andor. This time, episode 12, Rick's Road. And y'all, I am so freaking pumped to talk about this finale because it was so great. But before I get to that, just to let you all know why I am suddenly in different surroundings than usual, that is because I am currently visiting family for Thanksgiving, which is also why this review is a little bit late, because I was hanging out with them, I was trying to enjoy their company, but I was itching to review the show. I was so like, oh my god, everyone on Twitter is talking about it. I need to talk about Andor, because god, I love this show. And since they're all East Coasters, and I'm a West Coaster, they're all in bed now, which means Jessie gets the time to talk about her favorite anti-fascist show. So that's where we're at right now. Let's talk about this. I will stay, sorry, knocking the table because I'm using an iPhone here. Let's talk about this episode. This was great. I'll stay spoiler-free up front, and I'll talk about my sort of spoiler thoughts and like season-long review thoughts towards the end, as well as tease a video that I'm going to be doing over my main channel, which will be a big video essay about the show. But staying spoiler-free up front, this was a great finale to me. I think it really it managed to pay off not only all the ongoing storylines that we'd been sort of building up the past few episodes, all leading into Marva's funeral and all our characters sort of coming to a head here, with Cassian going, Deirdre going there, Karn going there, Luthen going there, like everything came to a head here, and it really, it pays that off in great aplomb. But even more so, what I really appreciated this episode for was paying off all of the themes of this season. This season and this show has been very much about how people choose to eventually fight back against fascist regimes, what it takes both as a community, as a culture to fight back against fascism, and as individual people. And what it takes is about recognizing our shared power as community with each other, and recognizing how authority and fascism is, as they say in this episode, as a certain character says, is brittle. It is weak. It is all built on the like trying to present power, but inside it's masking an inner anxiety and actual just weakness. It's all about the presentation of it. And this episode really was just about really just honing in on that idea and breaking it down and just showing how anxious and scared the Empire really is in the face of people fighting back. And it was so cathartic. But this episode was also just filled with so many wonderful small character moments throughout it that were just so great. And I'm sure I'm going to miss some because there were just so many with characters that we've been following for many episodes and characters who've just been in single scenes, but they all build up thematically to this great idea that we all fight back against these fascist regimes, and we can fight back against them. And it ends on I won't spoil, but the final moment of the episode I think really encapsulates all of that in the journey that we've been on with this show and with our characters, specifically Andor, and it was absolutely great. I will not say that this is my favorite episode of the show. I think that still goes to the prison leaving storyline, the prison escape storyline, and then probably the heist episode was probably my second favorite. But behind those two, this is probably my third or fourth favorite in this series, because this was a great payoff to the series, if not the best episode, one of the best, and I truly adored it. But with that said, let's actually start talking about some spoilers here. I'll kind of go through the episode. The opening shots of like Deirdre coming on Ferrix, I'm just gonna say they look badass. Like, this show is clearly the best Star Wars Disney show. It just looked gorgeous. I know that's I've said that every episode, but it needed to be said that her landing on here was great. I also liked like seeing all of the people of Ferrix sort of talking and sort of like conversing on hushed tones about Cassian coming back, and having like different viewpoints on it, where they're like, look, Cassian, I talked to him for like a second, I would want to be here to be my mother, but it'd be stupid for him to come back. And like some of them being like, look, if you know information, don't tell me. Like them all not being idiots about this, but also having empathy as people. Like, they care about Cassian, they care about his feelings in this, but they're also like this is dangerous for us all if he comes back, and sort of recognizing that. And I like their just subtle nuances in all of their reactions, and it really built up the community of Ferrix, just showing all these different people, but still showing them to be empathetic even within the nuances of their reaction to just Cassian possibly coming back. So that was all really great. We then, this is kind of a separate storyline, so I'll just sort of encapsulate it here. We do get Mon Mothma's storyline, which, oh my god, was that cold of her, but I understand her point of view and why she did it. But she basically plays her husband, where when he gets in the car, she lets her driver, she knows her driver's going to listen because she knows that her driver's a spy for the Empire. And so she throws her husband under the bus by pretending to say that he has gotten into gambling debts, which would cover why there was money missing from her banking accounts. And she knows she's doing this. She knows she's throwing him under the bus to hide that fact, because the Empire believes, like, oh yeah, it was the gambling debts. That's the reason that she has money sort of wonky. It's his fault. And oh god, it was so cold. And yes, Perrin, her husband, is an asshole. Like, certainly we've seen that. But like I don't know if he deserves to be like thrown to the Empire like as fascist. And like, to a degree, like I'm on Mon Mothma's side as like fighting back against the Empire, but it does show that she is a bit distanced from her family because she has to hide so much. So while Perrin is a giant asshole, I'm not necessarily forgiving him. Like, there is a reason he's also a little bit cold to her, and her just throwing him under the bus is even more cold. So it's like the situations that people like Mon Mothma are put into when they have to do this. I will say it does leave me a little bit confused why at the end of the episode she does sort of have her child meet the other kid that the sort of guy who's going to give her money was sort of like forcing her into. Maybe she's still going to use the money to try and hide the stuff. I wish we got a little bit clearer on that, because I feel like her throwing her husband under the bus in that cold action would have been enough to like hide where the money had gone from the Empire. But maybe she's just playing it safe as best she can, but still throwing her daughter to the wolves. And it kind of all goes to that idea of like Mon Mothma just has to play a ruthless game to try to fight back against the Empire, and it's destroying her morals. But it's what she has to sacrifice, as Luthen has sacrificed, as we talked about a few episodes ago. So that was all great. I love them going back to Ferrix, with Cassian coming back, and he sort of meets with his friends. He sort of has this nice moment where he remembers like Clem, and this idea of like the people don't look past the rust, like the Empire, sort of clearly alluding to symbolically the Empire like not looking past just the people that they control. They don't see them as anything more than just a tool to be used. They don't just see it as this like rotten thing, and they don't realize that the people can fight back, that there's a real treasure in Ferrix and the people there. So I love that metaphorically. I also loved, one of my favorite parts is Cass finally listening to Nemik's manifesto. He's starting to believe in the idea of the rebellion. He's starting to make the active choices we see towards the end of the episode of getting involved in fighting against the Empire and fascism. And I love, this is something that I've been saying throughout the series, but like, I love Nemik's whole manifesto, like talking about like, we need to try, we believe in each other. Like, democracy is everywhere, and all these different fronts pushing back against fascism, and they will all coalesce, but they're all different fronts, and authority is brittle, as he said. Like, these are all themes that I've been discussing throughout the series, and Nemik in his manifesto sort of making them explicit, and the show making them explicit in that way was absolutely beautiful. Then we get, I also love some of the small moments they get with, like, Karn and his, like, other ex-cop dude buddy, like, switching hats and just having their, like, weird little bromance, their little incel-y bromance going on, I thought was, kind of, like, weirdly adorable for our little incel boys. It's like, yeah, that is what incels boys, their little, like, manhood messages, like, we're gonna share hats. So that was kind of funny. I also love Deirdre sort of, having these stakes put up, in this moment where, like, they caught Krieger because Luthen sacrificed him last episode. But then we find out that, like, they killed Krieger, and Deirdre wasn't able to get any information from him, and she was hoping to, like, extend her ability to sort of keep going after these things and prove herself to her boss. But her boss literally just says, like, look, this was just about, we just caught Krieger as, like, a show of force for the Empire. Like, look, we can do this thing. If you want to, like, go further and you want to, like, prove yourself, you need to catch Cassian, which means you need to catch Axis, which is Luthen, as we know. And to do that, you need to catch Cassian. So the stakes are high for Deirdre, and it's just all about how she's, like, willing to do fascist, horrible things, all in the name of just pleasing her boss. And it's just like, I love that understanding of how people are just seen as these cognitive machines, just like doing it for petty reasons and supporting fascism as a result. That was all great. And then I also love that Cassian sort of gets more involved in, like, even less caring about his mother's funeral, Marva's funeral, even though I'm sure he cares about that, obviously, but wanting to go and say Bix, and that sort of becomes his mission. But then we also get these wonderful moments between Sintra and Vel, and you can see Vel sort of understanding her distance and the sacrifices that she's going to have to make to be in this thing with her distance from Vel, and how their relationship has somewhat suffered as a result. The distance between them was really hard to watch, but I enjoyed those scenes as well. But then all of this leads to the funeral scene. And I loved that tension rising again. The show is so great at like building tension to these moments of extreme, like just like letting go of it. And I love like everyone sort of like shifting around, trying to get into right positions. Everyone sort of like looking where's Cassian and Luthen looking at things, Karn watching stuff. But then the funeral, like getting tension with the flutes and like getting this unique funeral procession here. I love seeing that culture in here. And B2 Emo leading the way. I'm like, oh, my little adorable droid boy leading the way. And then he gives one of my favorite moments in this whole series so far, which is Marva's speech. And I loved the fact that Marva was dead. You know, I had questions like maybe this was all play by Marva, that she wasn't actually dead. But this is kind of like an interesting middle ground. She is actually dead, but she uses her death to like give this inspiring speech that she maybe wasn't feeling brave enough to give in life, but now feels like I'm dead and I can give it. And that speech goes again towards everything that we have been talking about in this series and how you fight back against fascism. It is recognizing our solidarity. And I love how this speech builds, how she talks about like my whole life. And we know that I don't remember if she's actually from this planet or if that was just the cover that she gave with her and Cassian, but regardless, it's still like a powerful speech. Or she might even be initially from here. But this idea of like, you know, I've always wanted to lift people up. I've wanted to be part of this stone, be part of this community to help lift others that like others lifted me beforehand. And I love this idea that she's like, I did it not to be remembered or for legacy. Because ultimately, like this idea to want to live forever, this idea of like trying to perpetuate our own individual selves, our own individual power, that is a authoritarian and fascist impulse. And I'm not saying that like it's understandable to want to remember people. We remember people, remember our loved ones, the ones that we care about. But the idea of like wanting to be remembered for all time and exert my legacy upon the world, you know, this sort of idea of like that, just that being your guiding star of things, that is ultimately an impulse that like leads to like fascistic and authoritarian, like gross over individualism. So I'm not saying don't remember our dead, but also like I love that sort of like ethos being in her speech. So it's not about being remembered. It's about lifting up our community. I want to lift others up. I want to be a part of that symbolically. And then she uses that to then turn and be like, we have been asleep. We recognize our own power, but we haven't used that to fight back against the tyranny that has constantly grown. And we can recognize that if we recognize our power and about how weak these people are, we can push back and do actually real good in this world. And I just need, honest to God, I'll be very honest. You know, just to talk a little bit about some other things, like if you go watch my main channel, I did a video earlier today that was about a really hard topic. I won't go into it because it's difficult. But I needed that. I needed this show to like, this is why I've loved and felt so energized about this show, is it just hits at what I am feeling in my life right now, how I'm like, there's horrible things going on in the United States and around the world. You know, there is fascism growing in the United States, totalitarian growing, authoritarianism growing, in many other places as well. And this show just inspires me to recognize that our power comes from caring about each other, our community in each other, our solidarity with each other, and that power, that when it like, our real power comes from caring about each other, not, you know, shows of force and violence. And I just love that speech for it. And it honestly really helped. It really hit me today of all days and what I was feeling earlier. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. This is, yeah, that was all great. I'll talk more about that in a second, but this thing goes to the Empire just like realizing this is inciting like anti-Empire sentiment, like basically instigates a riot. And the riot was all great. It was just, you see how people dropping dead. Again, I talked about this in the prison storyline, but like the way the show posts characters that we care about, even who we've just seen a few scenes here and there, but like named characters who have personalities and well thought, fleshed out backgrounds, even if you don't get to know all of it. Just seeing them drop dead, it really is hard. Like, I've never seen a show. There's so few shows that make me feel for just someone just dropping dead so casually in amidst something like that. It honestly is like, you know, I've watched TV shows where billions die over and over and over again because there's like cannon fodder, but this show makes you feel every death of just individuals, of people fighting back against the Empire. Yeah, it was hard to watch. And there's a lot that goes on in this. I won't touch upon everything, like Cassian freeing Bix and things like that. One moment that I did really find fun was the dude like doing the hammers on the thing, like, and just shoving people off the tower. I'm like, I'm here for that dude. I love him. Just shoving Empire officers off. But then you also had the Deirdre moment where she's rescued by Karn in amidst all the fighting. And I'm just like, oh my God. They're perfect. These two little fascist assholes are perfect for each other. Like, they both, like, Karn just has this, like, weird incel, like, stalkery vibe against you. She's like, why the fuck are you here on this planet? This is creepy as crap. And Karn's like, I got to save the woman of my dreams that I've been kind of stalking. And she's like, and I love that she's like, I should say thank you? And he's like, you don't have to. And it's like, they can't even, like, say thank you to each other. It's just weird and awkward. And it's like, God, match made in hell, those two are. So, yeah, I did really like that. Sorry, my eyes, like, tearing up from just the speech earlier. Yeah, so all of that was great. But then I loved the final few moments where Cassian gets Bix off the planet, and Bix sort of like says like Cassian will find us, sort of like you can tell she's kind of speaking kind of indirectly towards him, but because of the state that she's in, but she recognizes what's going on and where she is and his sacrifice for her. But then it all leads us back to the final moment where Andor, ends up on Luthen's shuttle, and he says, take me in. You can kill me now if that's really what you need, but I am at this point where I'm ready to make the active choice to fight back against the Empire. And this leads me to my final thoughts on this show as a whole. This whole season, like I said, has been about recognizing our own power and recognizing that we need to fight back against fascism. Unfortunately, as much as it sucks, when we live in these fascist societies, neutrality isn't really going to be an option, because these systems are going to try to oppress us one way or another. And to stand aside is ultimately going to let people get hurt, because neutrality sadly isn't a way to go forward in these fights. And it sucks that that's the actual thing that you have to do. But it was just really powerful getting Cassian to that point. Sorry, I'm actually getting affected. Oh God, I'm sorry. But yeah, the show was just, it was a wonderful ending, and it really was meaningful to see all of that paid off. And it's probably clear by my emotions right now, this show just really hit on something. This show was absolutely amazing. And then there's the after credit sequence, by the way, where we get to see the things that Andor's building in the prison were being used to make the Death Star, which excited to see what that means for season 2, getting to lead further into Rogue One. And also there's that poeticism of having Andor having been forced to help build the Death Star in the thing that he's ultimately going to want to destroy. So the nice poeticism there in those final moments. But like I said, this series has been an absolute treat. There's so many things I could say about it and will say about it. I have a full video essay that I've already written and shot, and I got to wear Padme cosplay for it, which I'm excited about, for my main channel. So expect next week or so, depending on how long I have to edit it, that you'll be getting my further like thoughts and philosophy and ideas behind Andor. Like, I read a whole bunch of philosophy books about fascism for that video. But to give my short thoughts really quickly here in a review format, this show surprised me, because I have not hated Disney Star Wars stuff. There's some of the stuff that I've just been like, I don't care. It's clearly selling a brand stuff. And it's all been on, like, weighted on nostalgia in some way, shape, or form. There's been some things like more than others, like Rogue One or so. But overall, I've been sort of like, I like Star Wars, but I don't really love it anymore. I used to love it a lot more as a kid. But this show has come in and just reignited my fandom as a Star Wars fan. Like, I have started reading books. I've started reading the Thrawn books and many others. So excited to be back into Star Wars again. It just ignited that, like, my neurodiverse brain to get into the series. But even more beyond just my nerddom, and just reigniting my passion for a nerdy franchise that I've felt has been kind of not waning, but certainly not been something I've been excited about in a long time. This series also, too, touched upon things that I think we need to hear today. As it's clearly hitting me emotionally with this finale, but this whole season, the reason it has reignited my passion was because this is a show that I think speaks to something we need to hear today. You know? Fight back. And our power comes from our community and solidarity with each other. And fight back against rising authoritarianism. And this show has not only been one of the first Star Wars shows under Disney that I felt has not been just trying to sell me something, but tell me something. And I'm ready to stop sleeping and push back. And that's what the best art should do. Ignite our passions. Ignite us to push back and fight for others. Care about others. And this show did that in spades. And I fucking loved it. Which is not something I ever thought I was going to say about a Disney Star Wars project. I'll end there. But this show, everybody, what an absolute gift this show has been. With that said, I will leave you until my longer video essay next week. on Andor, which I'm excited to get out to you. But for now, I'm going to go to sleep and hang out with my family. Happy Thanksgiving to those of you who celebrate it. And beyond that, I hope you all, my friends, live long and prosper.